That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, y'all know we already went through our top 6 running back rankings. Here, I'll recap the top 6. We're going to go a little bit deeper into our top 12 running back rankings for the 2022 season. And I know a lot of people are going to say, Mason, what the hell are we talking about? Why are we talking about 2022 running back rankings? And if you have not noticed, we are getting in live 2022 drafts every single week on this channel. Real money leagues. You can participate with us on the live stream. You can go get into some drafts just with your friends. You can go get into some drafts in a random public lobby over there on Underdog Fantasy. On Underdog Fantasy, you will see hundreds of drafts on this channel this offseason leading up to the year. I really hope that you hop into a couple. My favorite place to draft, and thank God Underdog Fantasy has decided to sponsor this channel. And when you sign up for Underdog Fantasy through the link in the description or in the comment section and use promo code FLOCK, they will match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. You will get our in-depth dynasty research book, over 100 pages of quality information to help you in your fantasy leagues. And you will get our 2022 rankings and our 2022 dynasty rankings and rookie rankings. So please take advantage of that. Also, while you're taking advantage of that, drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, and let's just dive right into this. And yes. We got some pushback. I know people did not like these top 6, but I will recap them nonetheless, and we'll get into the running back that everybody wants higher. Jonathan Taylor 1, Christian McCaffrey 2, Eckler 3, Najee Harris 4, Javonte Williams, Joe Mixon. Now, since there's possibly no Melvin Gordon in Denver at the time of this recording, Javonte's probably jumping up over Najee. Now, of course, this is from a points per reception format. If you are playing in a non-PPR league, our running back 7 is going as high as running back 2. In a non-PPR format, that is how big of a jump Derrick Henry is going to have. Now, of course, let me give my explanation. Let me talk through why I am personally going to be looking to avoid Derrick Henry going into his age 28 season this upcoming year, when I perceive there to be better options available on the board. Now, with Henry, of course, this is for a PPR format. Let's put that massive asterisk out there, because if you're playing in non-PPR, as we said, he's the second best player in fantasy, only behind Jonathan Taylor. But with Derrick Henry, as we've already discussed, this is a player that turned 28 a couple months ago. And if you look at the recent trend that we have had of running backs falling off a cliff, we look into this in depth in our dynasty research book at running backs just not being able to produce past 27 years old. Now, I actually had a little bit of a different take here with those RBs. We saw that massive fall off where, simply put, you no longer see running backs past 27 years old over the past 6 seasons produce high-end running back 1 finishes. Now, I was immediately off of Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry this season when they were hitting this age threshold. Now, I've come around with this because in that dynasty research book, we've done in-depth research back 10, 15 years ago, and we have found that back in 2010, yes, you were getting running backs lasting until they're 28, 29 years old, but still, you see that running back peak at 26, and then there's a sharp fall off directly afterwards. Now, of course, like I said, I think it's a small sample in recent history on why we haven't seen 27-year-old or older running backs be able to produce long into their second contract. I think that's just an anomaly. I don't think that's something we have to necessarily worry about with the class of 2017 RBs. Of course, we need to keep it in the back of our minds, but it's not like these players are undraftable. But that's a starting point to have an understanding of where we should begin to worry about these running backs with their age. Derrick Henry turned 28 a while ago. He's going to turn 29 at the end of this season. Derrick Henry is no longer a spring chicken. Now, what I am more so worried about with Derrick Henry is the fall off that we saw this past season. Now, of course, if you look at Derrick Henry's points per game, Derrick Henry was elite. Derrick Henry was better for the first half of last season than we have seen Derrick Henry his entire NFL career. Derrick Henry was the best running back in the NFL while healthy last season And I know a lot of people want to say he showed no signs of slowing down. In reality, I am unsure if that's true. Because if we look at Derrick Henry, exactly what he did last year in Tennessee. This is a running back that was the running back 1 on a points per game basis. But how was this fueled? This was fueled off of 27. Let me repeat this. 27.5 carries per game. That is ridiculous. 27.5 carries a game. About 2.5 targets a game. And the touchdown rate through the roof. 1.25 touchdowns per game. So you're scoring a touchdown and a quarter every single performance in Tennessee, which of course, that's fantastic. That's absurd from Derrick Henry. And if you could guarantee yourself that Derrick Henry was coming close to 27 carries a game this upcoming season, you draft Derrick Henry ahead of Jonathan Taylor. You draft Derrick Henry with that first overall selection, and you don't even think about it. If you think Derrick Henry is scoring more than a touchdown a game this upcoming year, yeah, you turn this video off right now. Derrick Henry is your running back 1 overall. It's that simple. But we need to look at the workload that Derrick Henry's had, where over the past 4 years, if you include the playoffs, Derrick Henry has had over 1,200 touches. 1,214 to be exact. That is an immense workload Derrick Henry has put onto his body. I mean, the tread on those tires, we don't know what it's looking like now. And we had a small glimpse of possibly the efficiency falling off a cliff this past season. If you looked at the yards per carry for Derrick Henry, which I will say, yards per carry to evaluate running back performance hand in hand is not the best metric at all. Of course, you have a couple different variables going on here. With yards per carry, you have to keep in mind the overall offensive environment that running back's playing in. You need to keep in mind the offensive line, the quarterback play, the coaching staff. I mean, there's so many variables that are affecting this one statistic. But at the end of the day, we did see Derrick Henry's yards per carry plummet from 2020 to 2021, from 2019 to 2021. We actually saw Derrick Henry have less yards per game in 2021 than he had in 2020. And this is despite him having a career high in his carries per game, a career high in his targets per game. So we are getting all these different situations lining up where Derrick Henry has had an unbelievable workload, has put such a toll on his body. He is being asked to do that, and he is not necessarily maintaining the level of efficiency that we had earlier on in his career. Now, of course, y'all know I usually say that efficiency doesn't necessarily matter, that touchdown rate is something that we need to be fading. We need to be chasing targets and usage in the offense. I think that Derrick Henry is a player that we maybe have to reconsider this with, because when you're 28 years old and you've had over 1,200 touches and we just saw you go down with an injury this past season, are we sure that a player like this can continue to see 25 plus carries a game? I don't necessarily think he can. And that's why I'm looking at Derrick Henry. If we compare him to Joe Mixon just had a massive offensive line upgrade. Joe Mixon is going to be playing on a team that scores way more often, has more trips to the red zone, more sustained drives. Joe Mixon's going to get more targets out of the backfield. And if they have more trips to the red zone, we can assume more touchdown opportunities. Derrick Henry's 28 years old compared to Joe Mixon being 25 years old. Both of these players are 3-down running backs. If you have to make an argument of which one of these players is a more talented running back in general, of course it's Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is more talented than Joe Mixon. He's more talented than Javonte Williams, more talented than Najee Harris. Derrick Henry is easily the king of the NFL. We know this. But the issue is, if you were not going to draw targets in fantasy football, we need to see you have 23, 24, 25 carries per game if we want to have that elite running back 1 ceiling that we have seen previously from Derrick Henry. And at this point of his career, based on the workload that he has had over the past 4 seasons, based on his age, based on the drop in efficiency we had last year, based on his offense looking a lot worse than Denver, than Cincinnati, than Los Angeles. And I don't think he's going to have the same involvement in the receiving game that you see with players like Najee Harris, like Austin Eckler. all these are combining to the fact that I am probably going to avoid Derrick Henry in fantasy this year. I think he's at a higher risk for injury than other players, and I don't necessarily think he has the same ceiling that you would see from someone like Christian McCaffrey in a PPR format, where Derrick Henry had 27 carries a game this last year, and he still wasn't coming close to Christian McCaffrey's 29, 30 points per game that we saw back in 2019. So I know that it seems very hypocritical for me to go out there and draft Christian McCaffrey aggressively and avoid Derrick Henry based on injury risk. I think both running backs have an immense amount of injury risk. I think Christian McCaffrey has slightly more, but if we're looking at the ceiling for these running backs at this point of their respective careers, I don't see the ceiling from a fantasy football perspective in a points per reception league when Derrick Henry historically averages less than 2 receptions a game. I don't see him having the same ceiling that a McCaffrey could get to, that an Austin Eckler could get to, a potentially 28, 29 points per game. Now, let's move on to our next guy. Let's go to someone that we are not going to have too much to say about. We're going to go Dalvin Cook here as running back 8. Dalvin Cook, definitely a boring option. This is a player that's been a top 10 running back every single year over the past 3. He is currently 27 years old, currently going as the 6th running back off the board on Underdog Fantasy. Yes, I know. I'm going to prefer some of these younger players. I'm going to prefer to go out there and be aggressive with Javonte Williams, to be aggressive with Najee Harris. I understand. I mean, we're also drafting Joe Mixon ahead of Dalvin Cook. Not many people are doing that. I just love Joe Mixon. I love that offense that he is in. But with Dalvin, a very stable player. This is someone that averaged about 19 carries a game over the past 3 years. He does have the involvement we want to see as a receiving running back as well. This is a player that has averaged about 4 targets a game in Minnesota. Now, no, he didn't have Derrick Henry's exact points per game mark last year. Dalvin Cook was the running back 7 from a points per game perspective. But the reason for this wasn't necessarily the yardage. It wasn't the usage in the offense. It was just the touchdown rate coming down from Dalvin Cook, which honestly, if we're projecting out the Tennessee Titans offense and the Minnesota Vikings offense, I don't necessarily think we should be assuming that Derrick Henry is just guaranteed to score more touchdowns on a per game basis than Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook scored slightly less than half a touchdown this past year. I think that is definitely going to take a step up, a lot closer to a full touchdown per game. And I think Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry from a points per reception format are going to be very similar. If I was a betting man, I'd say Derrick Henry is probably more likely to score an extra 1 to 2 touchdowns. Dalvin Cook's more likely to grab an extra 20 receptions. The yardage number is going to be very similar. Dalvin Cook, a little bit younger. Offenses look identical. Completely fine grabbing Dalvin Cook here. Like I said, we have him slightly behind his ADP, but that's just because I'm so in love with Joe Mixon as we were last year. Now going over to our next running back. Running back 9 here will be Alvin Kamara, continuing to hit these 2017 RBs. And with Kamara, this is someone that saw a career high with his carries per game last year, jumped up significantly. If you look at 2020, 12.5 carries a game. Look at 2019, 12.5 carries a game. He was almost at 18.5. And now this is not what you want to see from Alvin Kamara. We have talked about this at length, but a running back like Alvin Kamara, someone we're about to talk about in DeAndre Swift, these are players that what we want to see is the involvement as a receiver in their offense. With Kamara, what makes him so valuable is not that he's going to get every touch in his backfield, but every valuable touch in that backfield. He's going to get every target. He's going to get every touch in the red zone as well. So you actually had him going out there and increasing his carries per game by almost 50%. However, when we saw the drop in targets per game down from on average about 7 to 5, because a target specifically for Alvin Kamara is worth so much more than a couple carries are, you actually saw the points per game difference kind of even out for Alvin Kamara. Now, this is a running back that has maintained his relative career averages with 102 total yards per game this past season. He had 0.7 touchdowns per game, which is honestly kind of right in line with what we should expect for Kamara, because I expect this New Orleans Saints team to not be an offense that's pushing the pace of play, that's really trying to run as many plays per game. I'd imagine this is a team that almost asked Jameis Winston to be a game manager and instead goes out there and tries to play good defense and win games that way. Now, a running back that we are going to have way ahead of their ADP, currently being drafted as the running back 15 on Underdog, just finished as a top 5 option Yet again, someone from that 2017 draft class, alongside Dalvin Cook, alongside Alvin Kamara. We're going to go Leonard Fournette, running back 10. And here with Leonard Fournette, finishes the running back 5 this past year with a stat line that was very similar to what we actually had from Alvin Kamara a couple years ago. This is a running back that only averaged about 13 carries per game. But what was so valuable with Leonard Fournette is not that he was playing in the second best offense in the NFL. Of course, that definitely helps when you're playing alongside Tom Brady and you're the second best offense in the NFL. But what we love to see, 6 targets a game here in a PPR format, that is massive. He had 90 total yards per game as well. And this, if anything, I do not think is Leonard Fournette's ceiling. Because what I really want to do is look at that touchdown rate. He had 0.7 touchdowns per game in the second best offense in the NFL. This is because when they got to the red zone, Tom Brady was just throwing the ball. I mean, they were just stat padding out there for Brady, as I've said so many times before. Hell, I would be doing the same thing. I can't blame the man. I mean, I 100% would be out there adding to the greatest legacy of all time. But what I really like to see from Leonard Fournette is 2 years ago in Jacksonville in 2019, while this season he only finished as the running back 9 on a per game basis, the workload was beautiful. The only reason that he finished as the running back 9 instead of a top 3 option was because he was playing in that Jacksonville Jaguars offense. They just had nothing in terms of their usage in the red zone because they didn't get to the red zone. He didn't have any red zone opportunities. So with Leonard Fournette, he averaged about 17.5 carries per game and about 6.7 targets per game. His target share was higher in Jacksonville than it was in Tampa this past year. He averaged 111 total yards per game as well. Now, of course, like I said, he didn't have that 2019 Christian McCaffrey season. He didn't have that bonkers year because he was only at 0.2 touchdowns per game. But we can project that possibly with no Antonio Brown this upcoming season, if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have to lean a little bit more on the run and have to bump up the target share for Leonard Fournette in this offense, all of a sudden, if Leonard Fournette can come closer to 17 carries a game, 7 targets a game, and maintain a similar touchdown rate with what he saw last year, there is room for this Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense to regress overall, which I expect them honestly to be a little bit worse than last year. I'm not expecting Tampa to have the second best offense in the league, but there's room for this offense to get slightly worse and Leonard Fournette from a fantasy football standpoint to get better. Like, I am so in on Leonard Fournette with this situation in Tampa now. I'm going to be drafting him as the running back 10. So we have that pocket of older running backs. Yes, Derrick Henry is the oldest. Yes, Derrick Henry is the one guy that we've seen the drop in efficiency from. But I hate to do it. I hate to start Derrick Henry at running back 7, but it is what it is. Let's move to our running back 11. Here we're going to have DeAndre Swift, very similar to just talking about that points per reception mattering so damn much. And with DeAndre Swift, y'all know we were drafting him aggressively last year because what does he do? He is a specialist in the receiving game, and he is big enough to get carries inside the 20-yard line. Those are the two things that we have seen with running backs like Aaron Jones and Alvin Kamara. And in a points per reception format, that is exactly what we are looking for. Right now, he has an ADP of running back 10, so we're not ranking him that aggressively. We're ranking him right in line with where he should be. Y'all know we were loving to draft DeAndre Swift last year. I think he's in the same exact situation that he was in last season. I'm just a little bit worried, obviously, about this Detroit Lions offense. Would be interesting if they take Malik Willis, based on the fact that I'm not expecting Malik Willis to have a high checkdown rate. I would actually assume that probably hurts DeAndre Swift, as crazy as that sounds, but y'all know I like my guy DeAndre Swift. Now, one player that I historically have not liked, but this year I am fine drafting, I took him in a draft a couple weeks ago on the live stream, especially on Underdog, is going to be Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb, yes, we consistently called him the worst pick in the first round last year. We've consistently said, while he's one of the most talented running backs in the NFL, he is the most talented committee running back in the NFL, which he's in a very similar situation this offseason. But the difference is, with Nick Chubb, he is going to be playing in the best offensive environment that he has ever seen. He is going to be playing in an offense that should be top 10 in the NFL in points scored easily. More sustained drives, more trips to the red zone, more touchdown opportunities, even if this team decides to skew a little bit more pass happy. The presence of Deshaun Watson will make opposing defensive coordinators keep two safeties back. They're not going to be able to stack the box nearly as much as you were able to do with the Cleveland Browns and Baker Mayfield last year. So while the run to pass ratio may slightly favor pass this season compared to in recent history in Cleveland, what we could find is just an overall bump up in efficiency of the offense and more production, more plays run overall based on just improving this situation tenfold with a top 5 quarterback coming in compared to what you previously had with Baker Mayfield. Now with Nick Chubb, of course, I'm not going to sit here saying, no, he's a bell cow running back. He has a lot of the same concerns that Derrick Henry has. Like, I am honestly not viewing Nick Chubb and Derrick Henry that differently at all this year. Like, I know obviously Kareem Hunt's going to be taking touches away, and if there was no Kareem Hunt, I would have Nick Chubb ranked higher than Derrick Henry. I will say that. But here with Nick Chubb, I mean, this is a running back that's gone over 100 total yards every single year on a per game basis. This is a running back that, yes, is not going to get involved as a receiver. Less than 2 targets a game the past 2 seasons, so very similar to Derrick Henry. Touchdown rate should be hovering about 0.8, 0.9 touchdowns per game, depending on how many trips to the red zone this team actually has. But yeah, I actually really like Nick Chubb this year. I'd be fine drafting him on Underdog, but please make sure y'all go sign up for Underdog Fantasy so you can hop into some drafts with me. We're going to continue to get those drafts going every single week for the rest of the offseason. And thank you again for being a part of the flock. Really hope you enjoyed the video, and I really hope that you have a great day as well.